Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something absolutely fascinating. We are unpacking a highly nuanced philosophy all about meat consumption, karma, and our spiritual nature, drawing directly from the teachings and writings of Life-Chain Yuan guide Xu Feng. Whether you're a strict vegan, a dedicated carnivore, or somewhere right in the middle, the concepts we're about to explore are going to offer you a completely unique lens on the spiritual weight of what we actually put on our dinner plates. We're going to look at exactly how this philosophy believes our diet interacts with the very deepest parts of our being. Let's get into it.
So, to really understand this, we have to start with Xu Feng's core motto. It sets up the fundamental premise for everything we're talking about today. He says, greed for the nourishment of livestock will surely harm one's true nature. Right out of the gate, Xu Feng is drawing this direct, unbreakable line between physical consumption and our spiritual well-being. It's not just about, counting calories or getting enough protein. The argument here is that the very things we eat to nourish our physical bodies can actually inflict direct, subtle damage on our spiritual purity.
Now, you might be wondering, what exactly is at stake here? When Xu Feng mentions our true nature, he's talking about our innate, original nature. The text describes it as the nature of the Tathagata, or the Buddha. Think of it as the absolute purest, most unblemished core of who you are. This true nature is pristine, but, and this is a big but, it's incredibly vulnerable. To keep it beautiful and pure, we have to actively protect it. And as we just saw, that harm can sneak in directly through our daily diet.
Section 1. Subtle Transformations.
Okay, let's look at exactly how foreign elements, like our food, actually physically and spiritually alter us. Because, well, everything that enters the body has an influence. Xu Feng uses some pretty universally understood examples to build his case here. We all know penicillin cures disease, right? And arsenic is a lethal poison. Substances like opium or heroin drastically alter the mind and induce hallucinations. We accept those physical and mental changes as obvious facts. So the crucial point he's making is that eating animal flesh or drinking animal blood also alters us. The difference is just that the effects of meat are far more subtle. They operate quietly in the background on a spiritual level, rather than hitting us with the dramatic impact of a medicine or a poison.
To really illustrate the depth of this unseen transfer, Xu Feng points to the real-world phenomenon of organ transplant. And this is a wild analogy. Picture someone who has never touched a drop of alcohol in their entire life. They receive a heart transplant, and the donor happened to be a huge fan of beer. Suddenly, this previously non-drinking patient develops a serious taste for it. The text argues this isn't just some weird biological quirk. It's actual evidence that a person's original disposition, their true nature, is visibly altered when they integrate another being's flesh into their own body.
Taking that logic just one step further, we hit this incredibly striking claim. Imagine you were to consume wolf meat over a long period of time. It wouldn't just be protein fueling your muscles. According to the text, that long-term consumption, subtly, almost unconsciously, starts messing with your original nature. Slowly, your human true nature erodes, and it actually begins to be replaced by wolf-like tendencies. You literally start absorbing and taking on the spiritual characteristics of the exact animal you're eating.
Section 2. The Spiritual Hierarchy.
So, if eating different animals imparts different traits, it stands to reason that not all foods carry the exact same spiritual risk. Xu Feng explains that the higher the spiritual level of a life form, the stronger its flesh and blood are going to affect us. Let's break it down. Plants, vegetables, and fruits, they have very low spiritual energy. Eating them causes only minor harm to our true nature. Moving up a bit, animals like pigs and chickens sit at a medium spiritual energy level, causing moderate harm. But highly intelligent or spiritual animals, think dogs and horses, they possess incredibly high spiritual energy. Consuming them causes severe, heavy harm to a human's true nature. Basically, the spiritual cost is directly tied to the spiritual awareness of whatever it is you're consuming.
To really ground this kind of abstract idea, Xu Feng brings in a brilliant pop culture example from the classic Chinese tale, Journey to the West. In the story, if you're familiar with it, demons are constantly trying to capture and eat the Tang monk. Why? Because he's a highly realized spiritual being, and his flesh holds exceptionally high spiritual energy. It's this vivid, legendary illustration of the exact same principle. Consuming a spiritually advanced being transfers immense power, but doing so will drastically, fundamentally alter the nature of whoever consumes it.
Okay, let's pause for a second. If eating meat damages our true nature and higher-level animals cause even more severe damage, the logical conclusion seems glaringly obvious, right? It leads us to this massive question. So, should we all just be strictly vegetarian? You'd probably expect a resounding yes based on everything we've covered so far. But hold on, because Xu philosophy takes a really surprising turn right here.
Section 3. Following natural laws.
This is exactly where the teachings pivot away from a strict hardline prohibition on meat and actually embrace a much more pragmatic, nature-based approach. Xu explicitly says he doesn't encourage pure vegetarianism, nor does he encourage pure carnivory. He gives us two highly practical, natural reasons why eating some meat is completely acceptable. Step 1 is simply survival. Humans have to eat. When food is scarce, eating meat is a perfectly understandable necessity. Step 2 looks at the grand design of the food chain. Out in nature, lower life forms naturally serve higher life forms. It's just the natural state of the world, and according to this philosophy, humans are meant to follow nature's laws.
Now, don't get it twisted. This is definitely not a free pass to just eat whatever you want. There are strict rules governing which animals are acceptable, and it's based entirely on their intended purpose. Acceptable meat comes exclusively from animals artificially bred and specifically raised to provide food. We're talking pigs, chickens, and cattle raised for beef. Unacceptable meat, that comes from animals that were never meant to be eaten in the first place. That includes draft oxen meant for plowing, dairy cows meant for milk, horses, dogs, and absolutely all wild animals and birds.
And here is a detail that brilliantly shows just how incredibly strict and consistent this logical framework really is. Look at the rule regarding sheep. In this philosophy, the natural duty and obligation of a sheep is to provide humans with wool, not meat. Because their intended natural purpose is wool production, the text states it is best not to eat mutton. It's a fascinating little nuance, isn't it? It just shows how deeply this philosophy respects the specific, intended roles that different life forms play in nature.
But even when an animal is specifically raised for food, ending its life carries some extremely heavy ethical weight. The rules of slaughter are crystal clear. First, it absolutely must be performed by highly skilled butchers. Why? To ensure the animal experiences the absolute minimum amount of fear and suffering possible. Furthermore, a spiritual cultivator, someone actively working on protecting their own true nature, should never slaughter the animals themselves. The act of killing is still spiritually heavy, even when natural laws permit the consumption.
Section 4. The compassion of eating meat.
All right, this brings us to the absolute philosophical climax of Xu Feng's teachings. It's a concept that might sound like a total paradox at first. To wrap our heads around it, we have to look at the mechanics of reincarnation as the text describes them. According to this framework, life is a cycle. When a being reincarnates into the realm of livestock raised for food, it's a direct result of their past karma. They are literally carrying spiritual debts. And the only way for these beings to repay those debts and attain true liberation from the animal realm is through sacrifice, specifically by being slaughtered to provide food. If they aren't, they are doomed to just keep endlessly reincarnating in that animal realm.
Which leads us to this absolute game changer of a statement. Xu Feng says, eating meat can be regarded as a sign of compassion. Let that sink in. In this specific karmic framework, consuming meat is not viewed as a sin. It's not a moral failure. It is actually seen as an act of profound spiritual mercy toward the animal. So how exactly does eating meat act as this kind of karmic rescue mission? Let's break it down into 3 steps. Step 1. By consuming them, you are physically releasing them from the endless cycle of the animal realm. Step 2. You are erasing their karmic debts because they have finally fulfilled the required sacrifice. But step 3 is where the spiritual cost to you, the human, comes into play. By eating their flesh, you symbolically take their place, and their very nature is transferred onto you. To preserve the balance of the survival chain, the karmic burden falls squarely on the human consumer.
Xu Feng actually compares this willingness to substitute yourself for the animal to loving parents who would rather suffer imprisonment in place of their own children. It's a heavy analogy. You are willingly taking on damage to your own true nature, which, remember, we established at the very beginning is super important, in order to free the animal from its karmic prison. It's the ultimate willing acceptance of spiritual harm for the sake of another being's total liberation.
I want to leave you with this final, incredibly stark thought on the true nature of sacrifice. The text says, to endure pain, hardship, and punishment on behalf of others is compassion. It really forces us to ask a profound question, doesn't it? If eating meat damages your own spiritual purity, but liberates another soul from its karmic debt, how do you balance the protection of your own true nature with ultimate compassion for others? It's a lot to think about. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I hope this gives you something deeply fascinating to reflect on the next time you sit down for a meal.